President, can you hear me?
Yes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to the veterinarian from the different regions in the world. Dr. Susanta Malawarachi, the President of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. Dr. Rafael Levens, the President, World Veterinary Association. Professor Basil Alexander, our resource person today. And dear doctors, you are welcome to Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, second international webinar series. Today is our final webinar at the second SLVA international webinar series. Today our topic is how to overcome infertility problems in cows. Our resource person is Professor Basil Alexander, Professor of Animal Reproduction and researcher, well-known scientist from Faculty of Veterinary Medicine and Animal Science, University of Peradeniya. Dr. Sunit Disney, Assistant General Manager, National Livestock Development Board, Sri Lanka. I would like to invite Dr. Susanta Malawarachi, the President of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, to welcome you all. Dear President, over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Sugat, our former our immediate past Secretary of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. Thank you for organizing this international webinar series through Sri Lanka Veterinary Association for the second time. And very good morning, Dr. Rafael Lagons from our World Veterinary Science Association. Very warm welcome to you, and it's a glad that you are joining today, and it's an honor for Sri Lanka Veterinary Association. And today's resource person, our Professor Basil Alexander. So very good afternoon to you. And Secretary Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, Dr. Chamari Kanangara, and the today's moderator, our Vice President, Dr. Disnaka. Very warm welcome to every one of you, and especially a special welcome to our Sri Lanka Veterinary Association members, past presidents, and teachers of veterinary professional education from the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine from Peradeniya, and all the members from regional areas like India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Bhutan. Very warm welcome to every one of you. We are glad that we are organizing a series of sessions every year, and this is the second session, international webinar series. And objective of those sessions were to share the experience and knowledge of our eminent scientists with our members and also with the regional members. And this is a collaborative effect, and we always respect our members who are joining from other countries, because that is very important to share our experience and knowledge, also collaborate in the region as well as from other regions. And meantime, today we have a special guest, Dr. Rafael Lagons from World Veterinary Science Association. Actually, it is a great honor, Doctor, to welcome you, and I'm sure that you will help us in future activities also, as you do generally. Last year also you extended your full support, and also it is we are thankful for you for publishing our webinar series on your website, and I really appreciate that. And also, yeah, hoping to work with you, and I'm glad that to announce we started the regional association called SARC Region Veterinary Association recently, and I'm glad that you are joining that session on 6th. It is a workshop, and it will be a very good eye-opening for the regional vets also. So again, I welcome you all, and I am sure that today's session will be a very fruitful session, because our Professor Basil Alexander is an eminent speaker and also the practically well-experienced professor. So all the members of the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association and other regional veterinary members also, doctors also can get a lot of experience. So welcome you again. Thank you. And I hand over to our secretary to continue. Dr. Chamari Kanangara, over to you.
Thank you, President Dr. Susanta Malawarachi.
Chamari, you are muted.
Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, Dr.
Yes.
Damani, we can hear you
Yes,
properly.
we can hear you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, President Dr. Susanta Malavarachi. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Rafael Legans, President, World Veterinary Association, to deliver a small speech. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Dr. Susath Malawa Arachi, President of the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, Dr. Chamari Kanangara, Secretary of the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, different other board members of the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, Professor Basil Alexander, dear colleagues, dear friends and guests. It is an honor and a pleasure to be with you in this last webinar of the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association webinar series. I warmly thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a few words about the World Veterinary Association. The first step of the World Veterinary Association were taken in 1863. That year, Professor John Ganji from the Veterinary College of Edinburgh and Professor Herring from the Stuttgart Veterinary School sent a letter to the veterinary schools and journals of the different countries proposing the celebration of an international veterinary congress. The idea was to demonstrate the importance of veterinary science and draw up proposals to be presented to the different governments with the aim to define the rules of prevention of contagious and episodic disease and elaborate standardized sanitary legislation for all countries. That was the very first International Veterinary Congress in the history. It focused on studying the major episodic diseases as rinderpest that happily was eradicated in the world in 2011, but others still are with us, like foot and mouth disease, rabies, tuberculosis, and others that were studied in this year, but still continue with us, and still we continue fighting against them. Nowadays, the World Veterinary Association is a global association representing over 600,000 veterinarians worldwide through its around 100-member association, providing global leadership for the veterinary profession and promoting animal health and welfare and public health and protecting the environment through advocacy, education, and partnership. Its vision is to be recognized and respected as the trusted and influential voice of the global veterinary medicine. The current World Veterinary Association strategy focuses in 4 priority areas: One Health, veterinary education, pharmaceutical stewardship, and animal welfare. The World Veterinary Association and the National Veterinary Association, as the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, have adapted their communication methods and offer many webinars, another chat session, virtual continuing education activities, and lifelong learning, as you are doing here in Sri Lanka. We need to continue with this kind of activities and try to collaborate each other together. WVA expects that every national association maintains good relationship within each country with all the interested parties in the profession, as other veterinary associations, academia, government and administrations, livestock organization, NGO, and other stakeholders. The Sri Lanka Veterinary Association and the World Veterinary Association have to work together to benefit the whole profession in Sri Lanka and the rest of the world. This is my commitment and the commitment of the World Veterinary Association Council. To achieve this goal, the Sri Lanka veterinary profession is an essential piece. Thank you once again for supporting the World Veterinary Association and for your excellent work, kindness, and hospitality. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Your presence is a great honor to Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, and thank you very much again. I know you are a very busy person. Despite of your very busy schedule, you accepted our invitation. Thank you very much for being with us here today, and also for giving a speech which inspire our veterinarians. And your presence here today will mark a new relationship and also will enhance the relationship between the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association and World Veterinary Association. Thank you very much, sir, again. Hope you will stay with us during our webinar. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite today's moderator, Dr. Sunet Disnaka, to continue the webinar. Over to you, Dr. Disnaka. Thank you.
Hi, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to the participants today. And it is my duty today to moderate the session. Before that, we start the session, I would like to introduce some basics we should follow during the webinar. Basically, we should keep our mics off during the webinar. And if you have questions, you may use the raise hand option, or you can switch on mics at the end of the session during the discussion period. And even you can send messages through the chat box, so we can ask the questions directly from the resource person today. So with that, I'm moving in to introduce our beloved teacher, who is going to be the presenter today. He's none other than Professor Basil Alexander. Professor Basil Alexander obtained his degree in Bachelor of Veterinary Science in 1994 from University of Peradeniya, and he joined to the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine and Animal Science as a lecturer. Later, he obtained his PhD from University of Guelph, Canada, and in 2014, he was appointed as a professor, and currently he is serving as chair professor of the Department of Farm Animal Production and Health of the Faculty of Veterinary Medicine and Animal Science. He has undertaken many international missions, including the position of consultant in cattle reproduction offered by the International Atomic Energy Agency in Cambodia, Myanmar, and Papua New Guinea on cattle reproduction and the application of reproductive biotechnologies. He was the main technical consultant for the National Livestock Development Board for the cattle embryo transfer program conducted in 2007-2009, in which large number of embryo transfer born calves could be produced to the nucleus herds in the board. Additionally, he worked for smallholder and large-scale farms in almost all the provinces in Sri Lanka, solving reproductive problems in cows and training veterinarians. With this short introduction, I would like to hand over the mic to our beloved teacher, Professor Basil Alexander, to deliver your presentation, sir. Floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Disnaka. So I will share my presentation. So thank you, everyone, and thank you, Dr. Raphael, joining us today, and all our members, I think, joining from overseas. So today we will discuss how to overcome some infertility problems among cows, basically small holding farms. Like we have many small holding farms in Sri Lanka, like you have 2 to 3 cows average. And so this is like infertility is like, this cow, usually a cow can produce, say, around at least 8 calvings through her lifespan, like 12 years lifespan average. So, but some animals may not, because of they cannot produce. So they will produce maybe 2 calves, 3 calves, 5 calves in their lifespan. So that can be categorized as infertility. Now you can see in this photo, like in the northern province, like about 500 cows were donated, were given to some farmers there, like smallholder farmers. And this like, so she's complaining like, this cow, I got this cow about 2 years ago from an NGO, and she's not giving any calf, although she was inseminated, had been inseminated 10-15 times. So she's not producing. So then they asked us, examine these animals and give some solution. So yeah, now you can see like, so this cow is like almost about more than 12 years, like 13 years, 14 years old cow, but given to a small family, and they have been maintaining this animal, expecting a calf and get some milk from this animal. So like this is actually a kind of problem, like, as veterinarians, you can see this animal is very old, but if you open the mouth, even the animal doesn't have many teeth. So like these animals, usually we cannot do anything like any treatment, and we just ask them to, remove this animal or cull this animal, and she was given a new heifer. So that sort of decisions usually we take when we visit these smallholder farms throughout Sri Lanka. So we will discuss some of the field problems like this and how you can solve these problems and treatment and take some decisions. So like today, my discussion is, the outline is like retained fetal membranes, fertility problems in dairy cattle. So you have retained fetal membranes. We will discuss on metritis, cystic ovarian disease, which is very common among dairy cows, which high yielding dairy cows, and kind of genetically problem sometimes. We have seen in large farms many cases cystic ovarian disease, and there are new treatments. Repeat breeding is also a big problem here, like you import many cows and you put them in very stressful areas, like very warm areas, and you can't get a calf for about 2 years. Then the farmers are losing a lot of money. So that is repeat breeding due to heat stress and abortions and Anestrus. So we will discuss on these topics today. Retained fetal membranes, usually now, if a cow calves, like usually within, say, 95% of the cows, they expel the placenta or the fetal membranes within 12 hours. So that is normal, but some animals, this will stay more than 12 hours, and sometimes it's retained for more than 24 hours. Then we call it is a retained placenta. So as you know that, the fetal, the placenta, produces fetal MHC class 1 proteins. You call MHC class 1 is major histocompatibility complex. So there's an immunological reaction goes on inside the uterus to separate this placenta from mother. So inflammation process is going on. So then this placenta usually separates and it falls down. So if something is wrong with this inflammatory process, it will retain. So then we have to attend to these cases to relieve the cow. And in this image, you can see retained placenta, the fetal membranes are hanging, and the infection can ascend and infection can go into the uterus. So placental retention creates a large number of potential problems, like it increases contamination and delays involution of the uterus. So usually the uterus involutes, like involution occurs, and within 3 weeks, 1 month, it has to be completed. So if this retained placenta, so involution delays and increases the risk of metritis and endometritis, and strong association with poor reproductive performance. So usually animals don't die because of this condition, but it affects the reproduction of the future reproduction of the cow. So usually, vet surgeon has to visit the farm, and then you can clean this area with betadine solution. And then we try to, we put a gloved hand. We just try to remove the placenta, and you exert a little bit of pressure on the placenta. And now we don't go and try to do the unbuttoning. But earlier, I think about 10-15 years ago, we could just go inside and try to, unbutton the placenta from the caruncles. And what happens is there will be heavy bleeding. So we don't do that one because it can cause a lot of damage to the uterus. So if it is not coming out, we just exert pressure and just try to using a pair of scissors, we just cut the placental hanging membranes. And we have to give some antibiotics intramuscularly. So usually we use long-acting OTC, oxytetracycline, probably 2 shots maybe, and the animal recovers. But sometimes farmers might say, doctor, this is very smelly and we can't get milk. When the animal is being milked, you get a lot of smell. So then we have to, it has gone to a second stage like metritis involving the other layers of the uterus. So then we have to treat in a different way. So I will discuss in other slides. And as possible factors for retained placenta, as we said, that is the inflammatory process is going on. So when you use corticosteroids like dexamethasone, like corticosteroids to induce parturition in cows, definitely you will get retained placenta because you stop the kind of inflammatory process, and you stop the macrophage action by giving dexamethasone, and then definitely animal ends up in retained placenta. So then you have to attend to this condition. But about 10% of conditions are common in retained placenta. But if you go for induction of parturition, like using corticosteroids, definitely you end up in getting retained placenta. And some other causes are like acute mastitis and other metabolic diseases, and some nutritional deficiencies. Definitely in large farms, sometimes it can go to 40%, and we have visited some farms, so like Ambevela, and sometimes it has gone to about 40% because of vitamin and selenium deficiency. So basically nutritional deficiencies cause this condition. And as we said, heat stress, like we imported I think 10,000 cattle to Sri Lanka, and some of the cattle were reared in some warmer climates. Like these cattle are coming from cooler areas like New Zealand, Australia, and some parts of they have winter, and these animals Frisians, so they cannot stay in Kurunegala and Kilinochi and those areas. So they will have a lot of problems like retained placenta, and also they will not conceive for 2-3 years. And sometimes you have management problems, stress, obesity, overconditioning of dry cows, and infectious diseases. So in our country, we have brucellosis, like in another part of the country and the central part of the country, you have high incidence of brucellosis, and you can see many animals with retained placenta, hanging membranes, fetal membranes, and leptospirosis, so that kind of diseases. And cesarean sections, dystocia, abortions, premature calvings, also you get retained placenta. So then as a veterinarian, we have to attend to this condition and release the cow, then the animal starts producing more milk. Or some animals might get fever, so that's why we have to give antibiotics. But according to my experience, long-acting OTC is working very well in Sri Lanka in our condition. And then we have the other condition is metritis. So it is the inflammation of the endometrium, underlining mucosa, and muscular layers of the uterus. So this is a little bit serious condition, like, a lot of smell, foul smell is coming from the cow, and you can't milk the cow. Then we have to treat this condition. So usually when a cow calves, you can see a brown color discharge coming out from the vagina for about 2 weeks. So we call it lochia. 2 to 3 weeks it's common. But if the farmer complains like it gives a lot of smell, like foul smelling, then definitely it is metritis involving the mucosal part of the uterus. And foul smelling is an evidence of metritis. So some animals might have fever. So we do a complete physical examination and rectal palpation. Then you will see a thick inflamed large uterus, not involuted. So the metritis, then so usually we call puerperal metritis. It is the common, usually it's common one, characterized by the presence of an abnormally enlarged uterus, watery and purulent or brown and foul smelling vaginal discharge. So that definitely we can diagnose this as metritis. And if you see the temperatures, probably sometimes more than 39 degrees. And this sometimes is called a clinical metritis. And you can have sometimes acute metritis, but it is so acute when you visit the cow, probably the animal has died usually, already died. So it's acute metritis is very acute, and sometimes we don't have time to treat, but it is sometimes you get this condition also if the Staph aureus infect the uterus. And sometimes you might have seen chronic conditions like metritis persist over a long period of time, and some discharges coming out, then it becomes purulent, and then it leads to pyometra. So I have seen in many farms in Sri Lanka, metritis is very common, and you have to attend and treat these cows. So metritis affects about 20% of lactating dairy cows. So it's range is about 8 to 40% of some farms. And usually in these metritis conditions, we have to wash the uterus or lavage. We give a betadine solution lavage, and then give some antibiotics, like you can give OTC maybe IMOTC, or sometimes we introduce into the uterus like ceftriaxone 1 gram for 3 days, or sometimes you can use 30 tablets of cotrine, and also at the same time you can give oxytetracycline. So these 2 drugs, there is one occasion that you can use. But if it is pyometra and we don't, if it is more than 100 days of pyometra, we have to cull these animals. No point of treating these animals in our conditions, like it has done the damage to the uterus. So more than 3 months, we don't treat if the cow has pyometra. So possible causes of metritis, I think we have one cause is injury to the reproductive tract due to difficult carving. So sometimes we have to handle this dystocia in different locations. In Australia, I think it's very common, and in other countries. And then these are the causes for metritis. But usually when you handle dystocia, we have to give OTC or amoxicillin long-acting or other kind of long-acting intramuscular. So you know how to treat these animals. And systemic infections can spread to the uterus, common inhabitants of the vagina, and venereal infections, so can cause metritis. So if your animals have metritis, then you are going to lose a lot of dollars or a lot of money, and it causes decreased pregnancy per artificial insemination, increase in days open, decreased milk production. Definitely when they have metritis, the farmer says like, my cow is not producing milk, maybe 1 liter, 2 liters, but last lactation she was giving like 10 or 15 liters. So increased culling rates, right? Then we have cystic ovarian disease. It is also very common among our smallholder farmers, and also in large farms, like we have very good large farms. So, but these animals are very highly superior. They have superior genetics. They have the potential to produce a lot of milk for the country. But some animals have cystic ovarian disease. So after calving. So there is ovarian cyst of kind of follicular structures with a diameter of at least 70 millimeters, 17 millimeter, which persist for more than 10 days in absence of corpus luteum detectable by ultrasound. So that persists more than usually 10 days, but sometimes 5 months, 6 months, this cystic ovarian, the cyst is there. So we have to, using an ultrasound or palpation, rectal palpation, you can feel an abnormally enlarged ovary, maybe about more than 4 centimeter, around 3.5, more than 4 centimeter, abnormally enlarged, presence of an abnormally enlarged ovary. And sometimes this can persist for many months. So the animal is not coming to heat for 5 months, 6 months, 7 months. It's like that. So as you know, like you have 2 types of ovarian cyst. So one is follicular cyst, another one is luteal cyst. So to differentiate, you need an ultrasound device. But per rectally, you cannot differentiate. And follicular cyst, you can see this cyst, like blister-like structures which result from failure of ovulation, ovulatory failure, and it leads to cyst and luteinization, but slight luteinization in this one. But luteal cyst is like you have a big cyst, and they apparently fail to ovulate, but some luteinization occurs. But you can see some luteinization like a corpus luteum-like texture around the cyst. So this can produce sometimes progesterone, estrogen. This will produce estrogen sometimes. So then animal might show heat signs. Animal is coming into heat maybe every 3 days, 4 days, 5 days. But sometimes the animal might have a luteal cyst. And it can produce more progesterone, and the animal, all the activities of the reproductive activities are suppressed, and animal is not coming into heat for until you destroy this structure. So this in small holding farms and large farms, this is very common. And cow factors like associated with COD, like parity and body condition score, weakness, and genetic factors, and sometimes some genetics are also involved in producing this condition. And you have yes, and if the animal is producing a lot of milk, sometimes they might have this condition. So high milk yield may contribute to negative energy imbalance, and then you will get problems of ovulation, LH surge, and then the animal might get COD. So then usually we have to destroy these structures. So what we do is usually now we use OVSync protocol to destroy these structures, but earlier we use GnRH. You give one shot of GnRH, and after 7 days or 10 days, we give prostaglandin. And but now you can do that, but the first dose usually we use double dose of GnRH, like we use 5 ml of GnRH, what we have in Sri Lanka, like twice the dose GnRH, and then after 10 days you give PG. But some animals don't respond, then we have to go for OVSync protocol, which is GnRH at day 0, prostaglandin day 7, and GnRH day 9, and that structure can be destroyed and the animal comes into heat. So, but recently, like many them prefer to use OVSync protocol with the QMate or progesterone device, and you can have this protocol, but plus progesterone device. You insert progesterone device at the time of the first GnRH injection. So you insert QMate device, PRID device, like you get some progesterone priming. That is also important for the uterus, like progesterone priming will increase the conception rates and also prevents recurrence of cystic conditions. And also, if you use progesterone, that selects a dominant new dominant follicle, and then definitely you can destroy this structure and you can get a calf. So in about 30 years, 40 years ago, we used to, we didn't have hormones. Then we manually rupture this, cyst using our finger. But now we don't do that because some adhesions can occur. Then we have to cull this animal. So usually we have all these hormones now available. So we will use OVSync protocol or OVSync plus QMate. So that's kind of treatment. And repeat breeding. So other factor is like repeat breeding that causes a lot of infertility problems in Sri Lanka. And repeat breeding is like animal has been inseminated at least 3 times without becoming pregnant, but the animal is completely normal. So the animal has regular normal estrus cycle. Every 21 days, animal is coming into heat. normal estrus behavior, no clinical abnormalities of the reproductive tract. Discharge is normal, vaginal discharge, but animal does not conceive for many services. Now we have started a project as an infertility clinic where we visit the farmers where they have cows open for 2 years after calving. So postpartum is 2 years, but animals are giving about 18-20 liters of milk. And we have a project now to get these animals pregnant. So we use different protocols, and we use chill semen now in Sri Lanka. And a lot of animals, a lot of problems have been solved. So we visit these farms. If the veterinary surgeon requests, now we have some cows, very good cows. Farmers are not selling these animals because they are giving a lot of milk, but they don't conceive for 15-20 AIs, artificial insemination. So then we visit and start a synchronization protocol using QMate and OviSync, and also we combine PMSG, and then we go and get these animals inseminated, time insemination using chill semen. So we ask our government AI center to produce chill semen in the morning using a very good bull, and then we will come and artificially inseminate these animals on time. So these animals, I think we got about I think 60-70% of these animals are pregnant now, and farmers are also happy. So that is repeat breeding, and it's very common due to different factors, as you know, like heat stress. So if you have more than 15% in any farm, then we have to attend to this condition. Repeat breeding more than 15% should be considered a problem. And you know that it is like inadequate estrus detection, inadequate semen or insemination techniques, semen handling. There can be different problems, and problems with the cow endocrine disorders, like most of these cows don't ovulate. They have some problems. Now we have upgraded these animals to, they have high genetics now, but they have, similarly, they have what you call ovulation problems because of hormonal disorders. So hormonal imbalances. So then we have to use different hormones to get these animals pregnant. So endocrine disorders, ovulation disorders, and early embryonic mortality caused by infections, heat stress, and different problems. Then abortion is also common in Sri Lanka, like different parts of the country. And if any heifer aborts for the first time, so then you have to get this animal checked for brucellosis. But usually about 10% is normal, like in any farm. Like we have very good farms now, Ambevilla, NLDB farms, they have large number of cows, so they have about 10% of abortions. If they abort more than 10%, then you have to examine investigate what is the problem they have. So sometimes it is defined as abortions defined as loss of fetus between day 90 and day 265 of pregnancy, called abortion. And pregnancies lost between 30 to 90 days are usually referred to as, we call, embryonic deaths. And calves born dead. So when you see a dead calf coming out, then we call stillbirths after 260 days after, and full term are defined as stillbirth. So about 10% of abortions are common. So there are many factors, as you know, like bacteria, virus, and other agents, like brucellosis is very common in Sri Lanka, and other organisms, BVD, IBR. So other agents, the fungi, Neospora canina, have reported these. non-infectious genetic abnormalities, heat stress, and nutrition, phytotoxins. But sometimes with these animals get what you call tick fever. So the temperature, core temperature goes very high, and the calf dies. So sometimes if the vet comes late, both will die. But sometimes they recover. But pregnant cows usually, even if you treat, sometimes they die because of lot of blood. Then at last we have Anestrus and ovulation. So very different conditions like Anestrus. Anestrus is failure of cows to exhibit estrus. So animal does not show any heat signs for a long time. We call Anestrus. And sometimes scientists say these animals might have silent heat inside, but then anyway we have to start with synchronization program. Basically we use ovulation protocol, but some animals are these superior genetics. With superior genetics, these cows don't show heat signs, so Anestrus we call, but animal is cycling inside. And so if you palpate, you can see a corpus luteum there. An animal is cycling, but the farmer doesn't notice this for a long time. Then you have to do some ovulation program and get this animal pregnant. And ovulation is the failure of cows to ovulate. But now Dr. Disnagar said, like, we have done some embryos transfer work in NLDB farms. So you select 100 cows, very good cows, and you synchronize these cows using QMate. And say 100 cows come into heat. So heat was recorded, all 100 cows come into heat. But after 7 days, we go and check the ovary. You palpate the ovary, and then you will see most of the cows have not ovulated. So if they have ovulated, you will palpate a nice corpus luteum. Then the cows which have those have corpora lutea, then we will select for the embryo transfer program. You transfer an embryo for a cow which has a good corpus luteum. So I think about 50% of these animals, they show very good heat, but they have not ovulated. So we call anovulation or failure to ovulate. So that may be a reason that some of these animals don't conceive for AIs also. Ovulation failures, like this is very rare, but very, very common. I said common occurrence, especially in prepubertal animals and the postpartum period, ovulation failure. So because of basically caused by disruption of the LH pulses. So you need LH pulses, LH surge to ovulate, but these animals, sometimes they don't get enough energy or proteins, and then sometimes energy imbalance, negative energy balance. So that can cause some problem with the LH surge. So then they end up in ovulation failures. So, but they will respond for our what do you call synchronization protocols. I think there are millions of synchronization protocols, but if you can remember, if we use 1 or 2 or 3, that is enough for our cattle. We don't have to remember all these protocols. You have different protocols for meat breeds like beef animals, but cattle, different protocols. Bos indicus like Saiwal and these animals, different estrus synchronization protocols that will work very well with Saiwal and Bos indicus animals, but sometimes they don't work for our Bos taurus animals like Frisian, Jersey, and other crosses. So absence of estrus behavior and estrus we call. low body condition score, pathological conditions, debilitating diseases, and other factors. So may contribute to absence of estrus behavior. But there are another factor is like, as I said, now when you visit northern province and other provinces in Sri Lanka, so these are some of the cows that had some problems. Now this one is like the farmer says, doctor, this animal hasn't shown estrus signs for 5 months or 6 months. So then we examine parectally, or we use ultrasound scanning, or this animal is pregnant. So the farmer doesn't know this animal is pregnant, but he says, doctor, we don't see this animal coming into heat. So, but then you have to examine the uterus and, it's pregnant. And if it is not pregnant only, we will use hormones. Otherwise, it causes abortion. And this animal, it's like another province in Sri Lanka when I visited. So this one is very emaciated, and it's not coming into estrus for 1 year because the farmer is unable to. It's not affordable to feed this animal. So emaciated animals might come into heat maybe after 7 or 8 months, but you have to give a lot of energy to this animal. But now we know this cost of kind of cattle feed is very high now. So the farmers don't feed these animals. So then we will go into a big problem the coming year. So now these are good jerseys, bought from Norelia or somewhere, candy and distributed to northern province like Kilinochchi and all other areas where the environmental temperature is very high, humidity and factors are very high. But these animals cannot survive like they are in candy area. But if you take them to this area, heat stress, so they will not show any heat sign for long time. So very difficult to get these animals pregnant because of the heat stress, because the embryo dies because of the high temperature inside the uterus. So more than 39. If the temperature goes more than 39, definitely the embryo dies. So it's better to have these animals in cooler areas like Bos Taurus and crosses. They will not basically adapt, but some animals might adapt if you bring a small calf. But adult cattle, it's difficult. Sometimes they get tick fever after 2 weeks, and sometimes they die. So we lose a lot of genetics because of this, heat stress and other conditions in different parts of the country. So anovulation conditions, as we said, we use basically Anestrus, and if the body condition is very good and anovulation problems, we use ovulation protocol. And if you have some Q-mate and progesterone, we combine progesterone device also because of the priming of the uterus with progesterone. Definitely the animal will conceive. So we have to, different protocols for different animals. So sometimes the veterinarian have to take a decision. So like these animals in some one of the provinces, and ovulation problem. So we have to, you conduct ovulation and Q-mate, and then you get this animal inseminated time insemination. So this animal gets pregnant. So the farmer is happy. We have this type of farmers if you visit the field in all the parts of the country, but Vaticlo, other parts, Kurunagala. So but then we have to attend to these cases, but these animals will conceive definitely, but you have to use hormones and sometimes ultrasound scanners and experience. You see, this animal's body condition is very good. and it's about 3. So this animal is cycling, but animal doesn't ovulate. So as we said, you are aware of the OV-sync protocol, like we give GnRH day 0. Usually 2 ml we use in Sri Lanka, GnRH, and then day 7 we use PGF2 alpha, and day 9 up to 48 hours you use GnRH, another shot of GnRH. So you call GnRH PG GnRH protocol called OV-sync, and day 10 we get this animal inseminated after 16 to 20 hours time. But sometimes some farmers, when they see the heat, they will get these animals inseminated, and you get very good results with OV-sync in large farms and the imported cows. So there's another protocol like we use we combine SIDA, OV-sync plus SIDA, like we insert SIDA day 0, we insert SIDA and we keep the SIDA like progesterone priming. And day 8, we give PGF2 alpha and combine with PMSG like ECG, give an ECG shot also, and we remove the SIDA day 8. And day 10, we give a GnRH shot and inseminate these animals. So this is this protocol works very well with Sahiwal and other breeds. And if you combine PMSG, it recruits a new follicle, and you can minimize the progesterone activities inside the body. So that's the references, and thank you very much. And so I like to thank the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, all the members, and Dr. Raphael, and other members who are joining from abroad. And thank you very much. And if you have any questions, please ask. We can discuss.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for your wonderful presentation with a lot of examples you have given and a lot of new practical ways of overcoming these infertility problems you discuss. Then now I can open the floor for the participants to ask any questions if you have. You may type or send a message to the chat box, or even you can use the raise hand option. Then I can allow you to ask questions directly from the sir. Or else you can switch on your mic and ask from the sir. Sir, meanwhile, till others are asking questions, let me ask one question, sir.
Yes.
Sir, about heifer infertility.
Yes.
According to your experience, sir, what are the most common reasons we see in heifer infertility?
Now in heifers, like we have seen this problem, like sometimes some heifers don't show the heat signs.
Yeah.
Like, but animal is cycling inside. But sometimes, you get this animal inseminated maybe 3-4 times, but still the animal is what you call, it takes some time. The animal needs some time to, mature, like the reproductive cycle should be bigger, a little bit bigger. So then when I examine, I would say I will give another 4 or 5, 6 months and give some opportunity for that one to develop the uterus. Condition. So we'll ask the and maturity. So then the animal sometimes conceives. But sometimes you might get that you cannot get the insemination pipette into the uterus.
Yes.
Because, anatomical problems. It's very difficult to insert the what you call gun. But some AI technicians, they deposit the semen just not in the uterus, but we have to deposit inside the uterus, not in the cervix, and they deposit the cervix,
in the vagina.
The vagina, no, inside the cervix, but not in the uterus. But it has to go to the uterus. But
Yeah.
So most of the time these animals don't conceive, but I would say you can go with a progesterone device plus Q-mate, and most of these animals will conceive heifers. I think in MPhil we have tried one protocol. I think we got about a 70% or something like that, very high conception rates in heifers. Yeah.
Yes. Especially if you see a very good condition cow with a good body condition score, sir. Sometimes we see maybe over conditioned. So do you recommend, sir, to reduce the weight and a little bit condition for getting so
But this thing, like I have, in most of the cases I haven't seen like cows with high body condition, because as a poor country like us, like we are not, the problem is we cannot feed the animal. Most of the time we see animal emaciated animal, 99%. Sometimes rarely we will see a big cow but not producing for a long time. That may be a problem, in anatomical problem in the uterus. Basically, sometimes they show kind of bull characters.
Yes.
Doesn't produce anything, and because of that animal is very fat.
Yeah.
So sometimes then we will try one or two protocols and we cull these animals.
Yes.
Yeah, you can't keep them for a long time.
Yes. Meantime, sir, we are getting some questions. Let me ask one question from Dr. Nagin. He's asking how coming heat weekly. Please guide, sir.
Yes, some animals, like as we said, they might have probably follicular cyst. So the follicular cyst is producing a lot of estrogen. So because of that, animal is coming into heat probably 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, after AI. And during the estrous cycle also, it comes, frequently. So probably a luteal cyst, maybe a luteal cyst or follicular cyst. So you have to, confirm this using an ultrasound. But if you don't have ultrasound, probably use ovulation protocol plus Q-mate. Definitely you can, get rid of this condition.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Again, I believe that you got the answer. So with that, there's another question from Dr. Sajini. She's asking, what about PGF with 5 days interval?
What about?
PGF, prostaglandin treatment with 5 days interval. She's asking, sir, to repeat the PGF after 5 days again.
For the what you call cystic ovaries?
No, asking a general question for synchronization. Maybe she's asking if we inject today, and can we inject another dose after 5 days? Yeah,
5 days. Yeah, there are many, like millions of protocols like that. But according to my experience, I would use progesterone, like prostaglandin, like day 0 and day 14. So we call 14-day protocol, which is very effective. Like when you use sex semen in Sri Lanka, we use 2 doses of prostaglandin, which is very cheap. You give day 0, day 14, and after 60 hours, you get these animals inseminated. So we got 50% success rate in using sex semen. So you got we got females, like 90% females using sex semen, but the 14 program is okay, but there are a lot of protocols using, you can use, prostaglandin. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Dr. Sajini, you have raised hand, so you may ask if you want more clarification from sir. Directly, you can ask now. You switch on your mic and ask. Yeah.
Yes, sir. Thank you. That I have asked that problem question, sir, because GnRH it's very expensive. For poor farmers, it's very difficult to use GnRH ovulation protocol. And I have used PGF with 5 days interval for the normally normally the animals who are coming to the heat normally, but they don't get pregnant. With the insemination. So that's why I asked for that question. Can we use PGF? I have tried with PGF. For some animals, they get okay, but for some not. What are the, I mean, that using QMate device also, it's not practical with our government. We don't have that QMate applicators like that.
Yes.
So other than that, in our conditions, I mean, I'm working at Eastern Province, and very poor farmers, there are very poor farmers there. So with that condition, what are the what are the treatment protocols that we can use without lot of
much
yeah,
cost.
expensive.
Yeah.
Much
Yeah,
cost.
I would say if the animals are cycling in those areas, and if you don't have money, but probably 2 doses, like 14-day prostaglandin injection, 14-day program, like earlier we used day 11. I think now we don't use that. But according to my experience, I would go day 1, day 0 progesterone, day 14 prostaglandin, for 2 injections prostaglandin, and get these animals inseminated. But if you can have GnRH, then a lot of ovulation problems can be overcome. Yeah, GnRH, like little expensive when these hormones come into Sri Lanka, but in other countries they are very cheap. And you can ask the what do you call provincial director to purchase some hormones. Like 200,000 is enough. 200,000 rupees to buy hormones for the province.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Sajini. And Dr. Abdul Hakim is asking whether he can have the recording. Yes, this recording will be available at the YouTube channel, SLVA YouTube channel. After this presentation is over, it will be available. So you can log into the YouTube channel, and you can listen that today's presentation again if you want. And then Dr. Tarindu Edirivarna is asking, there's a cow which has a condition of follicular cyst. What is the best treatment to overcome this?
Yeah, I would use this protocol with SIDA protocol. Usually we use this in Colombo, like what do you call Western province. Many cows, when they have infertility problems, like we will visit and try this protocol. So like you insert the SIDA day 0, and you give but sometimes when you insert SIDA, we combine a GnRH shot also here, and insert SIDA, and then prostaglandin day 8 combined with PMSG. I think probably you can find PMSG, and then we remove the SIDA and get these animals on day 10 with the injection of GnRH. And it's very effective protocol when you combine PMSG also. And you need to have these hormones, as these cows are, very genetically high genetics. So it's like now they cannot ovulate. So we have to, bring the ovulation into a small window, and then you can get these animals pregnant.
Yeah, Dr. Tarindu, I think you got the answer. Maybe you have mentioned that you have tried ovulation protocol, but it was failed according to you. So you may use the SIDA protocol as said, I think.
Yeah, and progesterone priming, when you combine with SIDA, progesterone priming is needed, like you expose the uterus of it. Yeah. Dr. Sunil?
हमेशा सुनते हैं, देखते हैं, हमारा अपमान हमेशा ही, हम लोग सारे लोग ऐसे ऑफिसर्स हैं जो कि विजडम के तौर पर दिए जाते हैं. हमारे एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन भी ये बात को बोलते हैं, वी आर एट पार, हम लोग को सपोर्ट करते हैं. हमारा
I kindly request from you to keep your mics off. I hear some noise from one mic. Okay, now, yes, sir. So there's a question from Dr. Uddika. He's asking, in buffalo synchronization programs, I had experienced combined hormone sync with vitamin E selenium 5 to 6 ml IM injection. Are there any protocol combined with this? Buffalo synchronization.
You are muted.
Sir, you're muted.
So in buffaloes, sometimes we have to use vitamin E, selenium, because sometimes they are on, what we call, the pasture quality is not good, and food quality. And so sometimes we have to combine, subcutaneously, you have to give E and selenium. Sometimes, they get reactions and die. So we give 5 ml or 10 ml of vitamin E, selenium, and then start ovulation protocol. You combine with SIDA and buffaloes. So we have a buffalo breeding program now to produce buffaloes to Sri Lanka. So we use this protocol, and it gives a good result. So the idea is to produce very good male calves and donate these calves to our farmers, as we don't import, we have not imported buffaloes for a long time. So it's a lot of inbreeding is happening in Sri Lanka, but now in other countries like Pakistan, India, they have buffaloes giving more than 20 liters of milk. 50% of the production is coming from buffaloes in most of the countries. But it's a kind of a neglected animal in Sri Lanka. Nobody, if you say buffalo, it's buffalo namai. But the animal can produce a lot of milk in any part of the country.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Hope that Dr. Udika got the answer. Austin sir is raising hand. Sir,
Yes,
you can ask question or you can comment, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Prof.
Good afternoon,
Basil,
sir.
thank you very much indeed for a very interesting presentation.
Good afternoon,
I'm
sir.
learning many things in my old age.
Yes,
Just a question.
Yes, sir.
Now, with regard to cystic ovarian disease,
Yes.
you mentioned that for both types of cysts, that is follicular and luteal, to use the GnRH, PG, GnRH protocol. Is it also necessary, if you really diagnose it as a luteal cyst, it is necessary to give GnRH or not? Just a question that I would like clarification.
Sir, but basically, if you use combined with GnRH and go with ovulation protocol, it is now becoming very popular.
Yeah.
Yes.
I was just thinking about the cost, whether it might be to try with, because if it is definitely a luteal cyst, whether PG alone might be sufficient. But of course, sometimes it might not respond, no?
Yes.
To stimulate, to stimulate maybe.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
but sir, like we sometimes it doesn't respond.
Sorry, yeah.
Sometimes, like, you need a ultrasound scanner to diagnose this is a kind of luteal cyst or follicular cyst. So definitely you need an ultrasound scanner.
Yeah.
But probably if you combine with GnRH, and if you can combine with SIDA, you get more than 80 to 90% very good results.
Right.
But yeah.
Good, yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
One other small clarification with regard to embryo and fetus. You mentioned abortion from 90 days onwards.
Yes.
Right? Now, from 45 to 90, is that still considered the embryo? Because in my days, early embryonic days was before 16 days. Late embryonic days was up to 45 days. So maybe it's changed now. Huh?
Yes, but now the clarification is like this. And it is easy to work, embryonic death, early, late. So it's difficult to remember also sometimes. Yeah. But but now it says like this, embryo death, before 90 days.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks a lot. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for asking questions and commenting. That's another question from Dr. Sajina. She's asking, when a cyclic animal is repeatedly coming to heat after 2 to 3 times of AI, how we have to handle it?
Yeah, I think, when you examine the animal and you ask the history, you get the history, And if the animal is very old, like more than 10 years, 11 years, so we don't even try with these protocols. Sometimes you try it once, but age could be one factor. And sometimes, uterus, when you palpate the uterus, so it could be an old uterus, very thick uterus. It has given, many carbs earlier, and probably, some kind of fibrosed uterus. But those kind of uteri, you cannot do any treatment. So we just, when you palpate, you can, when you have the experience, you can say this is a fibrosed uterus, old uterus, and then we cull these animals, ask them to remove these animals. But if the animal is okay, the inside, everything is okay, then probably the animal might have an ovulation problem, and then probably go with ovisync. And if you can have humate, then you can combine. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I believe Dr. Sajina got the answer. One more thing, sir. What I have experienced is that when I screen herds, both cattle and buffalo herds, the prevalence of IBR, when we screen for antibodies, its prevalence is very high.
Very high, right? Yes.
So it is a kind of thing, eye-opening thing. I think we have to think of the way of spreading this. I doubt whether it is spreading through semen. Maybe what do you think, sir, to check the bulls of the semen collecting centers? So can we check the semen samples as well for virology?
I think semen samples can be checked definitely. And these now for Sri Lanka, we import semen from reliable sources, like
Yes.
definitely they like the chief veterinarian says IBR free, what do you call IBD free, not IBD, like BVD free. So like
IBR.
that all, yeah, IBR. So these sources are very reliable sources. I think. But the disease has been there in Sri Lanka. Like I think when we imported bulls or somehow IBR is here, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It is recorded.
Yes.
Many cases, yes.
And Dr. Sajini is asking again a question: what about using only GnRH for the animals with repeated heat? GnRH one dose.
Yeah, sometimes. Yeah, we used to do that, but if you have GnRH, like if an animal has been inseminated 3 times, you can try with GnRH at the time of artificial insemination. Probably there's a problem with the ovulation problem because of the LH surge is not coming at the correct time. So I would say artificially you do the AI and then give me GnRH shot. So there is also a kind of treatment for infertility. Yes.
Right, sir. I think that's all the questions we have for the moment. And it was a nice discussion as well as a nice presentation with a lot of information, new information and new theory knowledge. And I would like to thank Professor Basil Alexander for joining SLVA webinar series, especially this last webinar of the second series today. And it was a very well done presentation. And meanwhile, I thank all the participants today. Special thank to Dr. Raphael Legans from WVA, World Veterinary Association President, and for all the participants from all over the world joining from abroad, and all the veterinarians of Sri Lanka and other countries. So with this, I would like to hand over the mic to our secretary, Dr. Chamari Kannangara, for word of thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Disnaka. On behalf of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, I would like to thank Dr. Raphael Legans, President, World Veterinary Association, for accepting our invitation and for your presence today. Thank you very much, sir. Your presence today is a great honor to the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, and I am sure this will strengthen the relationship between Sri Lanka Veterinary Association and World Veterinary Association. Thank you very much again for addressing our veterinarians, and it will be a great motivation for our future activities as well. Thank you very much, sir. Next, I would like to thank today's speaker, Professor Basil Alexandra, for accepting our invitation and delivering a very informative presentation to our audience. I know the Professor Basil Alexander is a very busy veterinarian, and despite of your busy schedule, you accepted our invitation, and you always helping Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, and you're always giving your valuable service to uplift the veterinary profession in Sri Lanka. So thank you very much again, sir. And I must, since today is our last webinar of this series, I must thank all the previous speakers who joined with us during our previous webinars as well. Next, I like to thank today's moderator, our Vice President, Dr. Disnaka, for your active participation as the moderator today to make this webinar a success. Dr. Disnaka and all other moderators who have joined with us during our previous programs. Thank you very much all. Next, my sincere thanks goes to our President, Dr. Susantha Malavarachi, our immediate past Secretary, Dr. Sugatha Premachandra, and all the Executive Committee members of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association for their continuous support given to make this webinar series a great success. Special thanks goes to our President for your leadership and giving the strength to make this webinar series a great success. Thank you, Mr. President. And I know I have received many comments from our audience that they have again very good knowledge because of our webinar series, and very good comments from all the previous participants. Next, I would like to thank World Veterinary Association for the support given by displaying our webinar series in your website and inviting your members to join our webinar. And also the Indian Veterinary Association and all other veterinary associations for inviting their members to join with us during the past 3 months. Last but not least, I must thank on behalf of the Sri Lanka Veterinary Association, those who have participated today's webinar, those who have participated, the members of Sri Lanka Veterinary Association who have participated from Sri Lanka as well as from other countries, and also those who have joined from other countries, especially the veterinarians from Indian Veterinary Association, Nepal Veterinary Association, Pakistan and other South Asian countries, and also the veterinarians who have joined here with us today from other countries as well. So thank you very much for your participation and also your active contribution during our webinar series. So I hope all of you must have gained very good knowledge, and you must be able to enhance your knowledge on various topics which we conducted during our webinar series. So next, I would like to mention also that all our webinars are available in our YouTube channel and also our web page and also in our Facebook page. So those who want to refer those webinars later, they can watch those webinars by logging into those websites. So yes, even though today is the final session of this webinar series, we hope to conduct this type of webinars in future as well. So I hope to see you all in our future events as well. And because of our current situation in our country, as we planned before, we couldn't conduct many physical events. So I hope the webinar series which we conducted is a great success. And until we meet again, thank you very much and wish all of you a good luck in your future endeavors. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Secretary.